right. Hello, everybody. Hope you all are doing well. This is DFS Army's NBA pre-lock show. We have a nice 9-game slate on deck. Last night was a good one. It was a really good one. I'll admit, for me, Gay ruined everything. Not everything. It was still a positive night, but it went from a good night, but it could have been a great night without Gay in there. We also hit on that. Deep down, I knew I was like, that Hornets-Sixers game was where it was at. I should have gone heavier, but at least we still had some exposure. You did well too, right? You had like a top 10 finish.
I was in ninth for a bit, but I mean, it was only a couple point difference, but it fell to six. It was either 14th or 16th. I don't remember off the top of my head, but yeah, hell of a night, and a lot of helmets smashed last night too. So take that every day of the week.
Yeah, I always like to sit in the moment for a little bit because it's not always something we have. So love it when it happens. Dejuana, Maria, Brandon, Cujo, long win. Good to see y'all. Lots of injuries, but I feel like I don't know. I feel like there's injuries, but not too many. We'll start off with the first game. Lakers going up against the Wizards. Decent total here at 229.5. Spread is wide though at 10 points, but it's the Wizards, so super soft matchup. From an injury news perspective, we got the news that Austin Reeves is going to be out, but Luka Doncic will play. He was questionable, but with him in, we know the matchup and the situation. Who do you like, if anyone?
Yeah, that would have changed the whole slate right there if Luka was out. So don't have to worry about anything too crazy here with him playing. So didn't have to do anything to Luka. He's showing at 27%, which I'm definitely okay with. I can't say I love the value we have tonight, but there is some viable value to make lines work with him. And it is the Wizards, of course. Blowout is a concern, but Luke is definitely good enough to do his damage before he gets pulled, if it gets to that. So going to ride with that. Don't think I can play LeBron. I try to target him sometimes when he's in a good spot, but he's just not. He's not it right now. So if he smashes, then he smashes. I can live with it. Only other one I'm playing is LaRavia, and only because I mean he's not safe and I don't like him, but nobody's playing him. He's sub 2% right now and plays a lot of minutes. I think he'll be safe in a blowout. Only 4,300, and again, it's the Wizards, one of the worst teams in the league, and also a guy who's popping like crazy on the sim model. So going a little aggressive there. 5% would probably be the smarter play, but just going aggressive with 10%, especially with some of the other value that I don't feel too comfortable with. I'm okay with getting him in the mix.
Interesting. I was not looking at LaRavia at all, but you're right. The sim model does like him a lot. So I'll follow you. I'll put a 10% min on him and hope he does a little something for us. Playing these cheap guys in soft matchups is always just easier for me because it shouldn't be too hard for them to really get there. So I like that spot. I have a 20% min on Luka Doncic. He did show up a lot for me naturally, but in like the last 10, 20 minutes, he just disappeared. And I was like, I'm not going to deal with that. I'm just going to put a 20% min. He'll show up right there and I'll call it a day. And then LeBron James is going to be a leverage play for me tonight. I always just play guys after he burnt everybody. He was super chalk in that last game. And so I'm going to play him here in an even softer matchup. So 10% min on LeBron, not too crazy, but enough where I'll feel good if he's popping off tonight. And then that's it. I like the spot, but, it's still the first game on the slate. And so we're not going too wild with it because it probably will end up being a late swap night the way these larger slates go.
I was looking at 8-2, and every time I just see his name, I just shake my head because he used to be our guy who used to target back in the day, and he's just straight trash now.
He had like a small mini run of like 2 good games, and then he was trash. Let's see. Long win MPJ, he plays. I think he is just a little banged up. Right? He plays back-to-backs. It's not really something he doesn't do.
Yeah, he has before, but I think it's more so just like a injury management thing.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed, John. Agreed. No Smart, Brandon. I'm not looking at Smart. Maybe if you're doing like a showdown or something, you can look at him, but that's a hard pass for me.
If it was a smaller slate, maybe, but
I don't know if I've played him all year. Probably have. Who knows? All right. Other side of this game, we have Washington going up against the Lakers. For Washington, we have Trey Johnson out. He's still dealing with that ankle injury, so that's a boost in usage to Carrington, George, Champagny usually starts. Chris Middleton is out, thank God, which means Carrington should start. And then Champagny also sees a boost with that as well. And then everyone else has been out for a while here. Looks like you like these guys. Why?
Yeah, I'm definitely playing some Champagny and Carrington with Middleton and Trey out. That both of their roles should, I mean, they already had pretty significant roles in this offense, but it'll only increase with those two out. Not my favorite spot for this team, but they are priced decently. So with their usage they should have tonight, I'm just willing to take a shot there. And then Keyshawn George, I'm just going to continue to play. Again, don't love this spot overall, but his upside is there, and he's just in overall great form. And I have no issues if you want to play Sar, another guy who's playing well. He did great last night, but 7,900 on a large slate. Again, I'm just prioritizing other bigs, but no issues if you want to get there.
Who are
And then,
you? What did
I,
Sar
I,
do to you? You used to be a Sar guy with me every
kinda,
day, and you hopped off the train. But it's
I
okay.
think it's just that price tag, and then again, I like other centers more, so I have nothing against them. I do like them, but I'm picky in certain spots.
Yeah, especially in a slate where we have a decent amount of solid center plays. I get it.
Yeah,
I I don't respect the Lakers defense, and so I like picking on them probably just as much as the Jazz or Washington. They're not that bad, but it's still just something I do. And so I do have a 15% min on Sar, slightly over the field there, but not too wild. And then George, I have a 15% min on. It wouldn't shock me if these guys disappoint just because they have been playing a lot of minutes recently. And so I am expecting a little bit of regression there, but I still like being over the field on them. And then I wasn't too high on Carrington and Champagny like you, but with the injuries they have, I do expect them to be involved a bit more. And so I think just like you, I have a 15% min on both. So they're fine, decent lineup fillers, but they don't
yeah.
change too much for me. All right. Next up, we have a tough game. Lowest total on the slate. Kings against the Celtics. Kings have an 11.5 point spread. Boston's a defense I don't like to pick on too often, but there's injury news for the Kings that make them semi-viable. They are on the back end of a back-to-back. Sabonis is out, which means we'll see more minutes for Reynaud. Cardwell, Precious Achiuwa will probably get in the mix a bit more. Russell Westbrook is out. We saw this yesterday. Schroeder popped off for us. Hopefully he can do that again. And then Keegan Murray's been out. He'll be out again tonight. Do you like the Kings?
Yep, I'm going right back to Schroeder. Like you said, no Westbrook. We were all over that last night. Had a healthy amount of exposure, and one of the guys that helped us smash. So going right back to him. I know Monk is back, but I'm not too concerned, especially with Sabonis out. That frees up a lot of usage, even more so when Monk was out. So I think Schroeder will still lead this offense, and he's usually pretty aggressive when he's in positions like this. I think he put up like 16 shot attempts last night. So somebody who puts up that kind of amount, I'm pretty comfortable with going back to him, especially at 5,100. And then the only other one I forced in was Precious. Again, another value play that nobody is on. He played, I think, 34 minutes last game and scored almost 32 fantasy points. He should get a lot of minutes again with Sabonis out. Matchup is tough, which is why the field is not on him, but I'm not going to let that scare me off of him. So another value play I want to get in the mix that nobody's on.
Yeah, I'm glad we updated projections because Precious was popping up in like 60, 70% of lineups. And I was like, you know what? I'll ride with it. No one else is doing it. It's fine. But we did update projections, and now he doesn't really show up at all because he's not showing up for the rest of the industry. I have a 10% min on him too, but I'm going to lower it to 5 just because I'm a little nervous about that situation. I never really know what the Kings are going to do. So I'll put a 5% min on him. We'll still be over the field. He's just another really good value guy to have in the mix. So anywhere from 5 to 10, perfect for me. I have a 5% min on Malik Monk. This Boston team is a good defense, but they play a bit differently when Jaylen Brown's off the court. And so I'm a little bit more open to having exposure here, even though it is a really tough matchup. And it's going to keep getting grosser here, guys. I have a 5% min on DeMar DeRozan. My guy just keeps getting slept on. He did miss a game-winning shot last night. But besides that, he's been in decent form. We haven't seen like gigantic games, but he's been solid. So he's just someone I want to keep getting exposure to of all the injuries they have. And then I have a 30% min on Schroeder, but he's showing up in 67% of lineups right now. So hopefully that continues to stay the case. But as long as he's not going over 70, I think that's ideal for me. And then that's it. I like the Kings more than I probably should, if I'm being honest. Other side of this game is much more interesting because the Kings are a god-awful defense. And then, like I already kind of mentioned, Jaylen Brown is out. He is the guy for this team. Usage rates go up for Peyton Pritchard, Derek White, Hauser, everyone, literally, because he eats it all. So we have a star out and a soft matchup. You're going to want some of these Celtics. Who are you prioritizing?
Yeah, Pritchard and White are the obvious when Brown is out. You just play those guys. They're the next up, and usage should be crazy high for both of them. I do favor Pritchard a bit more over White, and that pricing is a big reason too. They both have similar upside, and Pritchard's kind of been a little more consistent too as far as reaching upside. So I'm at 65% Pritchard and 55 White, so pretty close, not too far off there. I did put a 15% min on Simons. He should get more minutes, and again, value play who can get hot. We've seen it before. Soft matchup, so definitely wouldn't be surprised if he popped off tonight. And then I did put a 10% min on Kada. No Sabonis, just made me want to do it even more. And again, nobody else is really playing him. Only 3% owned. I want some leverage there in a spot like this. Only 5,700. I think you can definitely pay that off in this spot.
Yeah, I had a 5% min on Kada, but I think I'm going to increase it to 10 because you like him and I like the matchup already. So that's enough random math to make me decide to go heavier on a guy. So I'm going to increase my Kada exposure to 10%. And then how much Pritchard are you getting?
65%.
Did you do anything to him?
Nope, nothing. I wasn't getting him at first, but when we updated projections, he kind of got there for me.
He's showing up in 57% of my lineups. I think that's okay, but if he falls below 50, I'll put a min on him, probably like 55 or 60. And then Derek White, how much of him are you getting?
55, which I'm definitely okay with. Damn. I feel like Chalky White has let us down quite a bit too. So
yeah, but in a good matchup, I'm not going to overthink it too much. He's only shown up in about 31% of my lineups without doing anything. I'll put a 45% min on him just to kind of get him to show up a bit more for me too. I like this team. I like attacking with these guys. Anyone else you think about like a Sam Hauser at all?
Yeah, I was getting ready to say I'm heavily considering Hauser. Just something about that 5K price tag. I know he's been playing a little better, but I would feel better if he was in that 4K range too. But especially if you're playing 150, if you throw a 5% min on him, I don't think it'll hurt you.
Yeah. Are you playing 150 or are you 20 maxing?
Yeah, I'm doing 150 tonight.
Yeah, I didn't take the shot on Hauser either, but he was a little interesting. I do have a 20% min on Simons. He's just a value guard that I like, especially when Jaylen Brown is out. So I wanted to be over the field there. But other than that, I think we're pretty aligned on that game.
Yeah, I'll change that to 20 as well.
Next up, we have another gross game environment. We have the Raptors going up against the Magic. For the Raptors, they are especially gross just because they don't have a lot of injury news. They actually have none if you don't count Jakob Poeltl, who's been out forever.
Yeah.
Magic are a good defense. Are you playing any of these guys?
Yeah, as I say, a relatively healthy team minus Poeltl. Everybody's priced appropriately. I couldn't find a reason to force any of these guys in outside of no ownership.
Yeah. Hell no for me. I'll take a shot on the Raptors on a small slate. Give me a big slate and a bad matchup. Screw that. Will it surprise me if one of them pop off? No, it'll probably happen, but I'm not going to chase it. John, that's a great call last night, man. I feel like last night was the one time I didn't play DeRozan, so probably a good reason to not go back there. Any love for Hugo Gonzalez? Did you think about him at all?
I did not.
Yeah, with Kata back, it's part of why I didn't really look at Luka Garza or Hugo. So I just didn't get there. No Raptors. And then for the Magic side of this game, we only have Franz out. We've seen this enough times. It looks like you're not taking any shots on these guys, but did you think about anyone?
I thought about Suggs again. He's gonna pop off at some point, and I just love his price tag. He just hasn't quite gotten there yet. But again, I don't love this spot enough to force anybody in here. Would I be surprised? Kind of like the other side if somebody goes off? No, but just don't love it enough. I will give Anthony Black a shout out again because that dude is just balling. He just looks so good. Like he's saucing people up and just getting buckets. Like I do
I
like
played,
watching him.
I played him in that last game against Miami, and he went off at super low ownership. Anthony Black is now in that territory of MPJ and Keontae George, who I just play every slate, like no matter what, as long as Franz is out. Once Franz comes back, screw that. But for now, 5% min on Anthony Black because I just want exposure. He has 50 plus upside. He's someone you don't need. Definitely don't put him in a single entry lineup, but I like having exposure to him in my 150. And then Paolo's tough. He's been good though, even in tough matchups here recently. So I have a 10% min on him. I'm not going to claim him as a leverage play, but I'll be over the field. Just someone I like having exposure to. We're going to see if he's actually showing up around 10%. He's not. He's only showing up in about 3% of my lineup. So not someone I would make a priority, but still someone I like to have in a couple of lineups. Next up, things get gross still. We have the Portland Trailblazers going up against the Knicks. For Portland, Deni Avdija is questionable per usual. At this point, we pretty much knows what happens when he's out. Big boost to Sharp and a lot of the starters. Robert Williams is questionable. We'll have to see what happens there. Then the rest of this team has been out for a while. Really tough matchup against the Knicks. I'm not playing any of them. Are you?
No. Robert Williams is a needle mover for me.
Yep.
If Avdia gets rolled out, then I might consider a couple people, but even then, most of these guys are priced appropriately, and they're in a tough matchup. So, yeah, probably won't have any Portland tonight.
K-Sim, that's awesome, man. 9th in the NBA crossover. Congrats. Hopefully we can keep it going, but you got to celebrate those wins when you get them, man. That's hard to do.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, but yeah, hard no for me for Portland. If Deni Avdija plays, hell to the no to that. It's just not going to happen. For the Knicks side of things are a lot more interesting because Portland's just not a good defense. They're a team we can pick on. Miles McBride is out, so a slight boost to guys like Kolek, Shamet, Clarkson. But are you playing these guys?
Yeah, my strategy here was just to kind of focus on the mid-tier guys. So I put a 15% min on Hart and then 5% mins on Bridges and OG. I kind of lean in that this game doesn't stay close. So I didn't feel passionate enough to force Brunson and Cat in, especially since they haven't really been showing much upside as is anyway. So kind of skipped over them, but I do think these other guys, they're priced low enough to still pay the tags off. And then, of course, Mitch Robb, he's another solid value play. Kind of worry about his minutes a bit, but he's a great points per minute guy. Has been kind of getting between 25 to 30 fantasy points at 4,300. Definitely a good range for him.
Yeah, I get it. And I'm with you on a lot of this. The only difference is I am going to take some shots on these pay up guys. They've not been very consistent. They haven't shown us a lot of upside, but Cat in particular, I do like this matchup. Portland's bigs are a team you can pick on. And this is a spot where he should be able to get back on track a little bit. So trying to stay optimistic here. 8,400, we're not paying a premium for him. I think he could be a little sneaky at low ownership. So 15% min there. And then Jalen Brunson, I put a 15% min on. I'm not a Brunson guy too often. He's just someone I like to have exposure to on large slates just in case he does something. And then outside of that, I'm with you with the 15% min on Mitchell Robinson. But I don't think I put a min on Josh Hart. He's only showing up in about 5% of my lineups. I always get the Josh Hart love. I just usually don't force exposure to him unless he's low owned or someone else is out. So if he pops off, like he probably will in this really good matchup because he does everything for this team, that's just going to be the way it is, but I'm not going to force it. Instead, I put a 10% min on OG Anunoby. I do this a lot. It's usually OG or Mikal Bridges. I like picking on Portland's bigs, and OG has the ability to be a little bit more aggressive in the paint. So I just chose OG here with a 10% min. Technically a leverage play, but I didn't write him up as one. Just another guy I like to be over the field on. And that's going to be it there. Next up, we have Memphis going up against New Orleans. Two defenses that are bad. I love that combination. That means I get to get weird with guys that people don't like to play. For Memphis, Santi Aldama is out, which means we'll see more than likely Landale start once again. And then pretty much all the centers and forwards see a boost with Aldama out. Who are you playing here? I know we're playing these guys, right?
Oh, yeah. I love this. Is probably my favorite game on the slate, to be honest. Last time they played each other last week, and it was just fireworks. So put a 30% min on Jaren and threw a like on him afterwards just because I like him that much. He absolutely crushed in this spot. And with him, when the price is right, the matchup is right, and Ja's out, I'm going to make him a leverage play. So currently at 45%, I'm going very aggressive on him. Jock, I know he disappointed us last time against Charlotte, but he did really well in this spot last week as well. 6K is kind of getting up there for him, but we say it all the time. New Orleans front court is not scary whatsoever. So he should still play a ton of minutes, and definitely love the spot for him. Coward, he has shown upside. He's kind of just been average lately, but somebody who can get you between 30 to 40 fantasy points, 5,900. Definitely want to make sure I have exposure there. Put a 10% min. GG, I just always play when Aldama's out. Another, I think, viable value play. I love his ownership too, so want to make sure I have some exposure there as well. And then Cam Spencer, again, he was another one who disappointed in that Charlotte game. Ended up being a blowout. And like you said, they are getting better, and it's showing for sure. But he played well in this spot again. And when Ja's out, I just play him, especially in this lower 6K range. So, yeah, overall, I love this team quite a bit.
I mean, rule of thumb is we just pick on the Pelicans every slate, just like Utah and Washington. And typically, this team tends to go a little underowned. I was so close to making Jaren Jackson Jr. a leverage play, but I just got a little nervous. Like I always do when guys I like get ownership. I'm just like, you know what? I'll be over the field. I have a 25% min on them, so I'm not that far off. I was just like, I can't do the 30 today. That makes me a little nervous. JJJ, he's really good against bad teams, but he can be a little inconsistent. So there is risk there, like there is for everybody. But I just like to highlight those guys who have been known to kind of piss us off a little bit.
Yep.
So like being over on him. I have a 10% min on Cam Spencer, like you. So I wanted to make sure I was getting close to field weight exposure about John Morant. I have a 10% min on Cedric Coward. And then outside of that, I don't have mins on these guys. I do like picking on the Pelicans, but there's a line. There's a line. I need these guys to show up naturally if I'm going to play them. Guys like Landale and Vince Williams and GG are just guys I usually don't force too much exposure to, but I've seen them work out for you enough times to know it's not a crazy play. KCP is naturally showing up in about 3% of lineups. Don't know why. I don't really love him, but I'm not going to X him out. So we'll see if the DS is onto something there. But those top 3 guys are really the main priorities for me. Other side of this game, you'll probably also get a decent amount of exposure to. We have no injury news for the Pelicans. Just DeJounte Murray's been out forever. But a pretty good matchup against the Grizzlies. Who do you like here?
Yeah, Zion and Bay for sure are my favorite plays, which you don't have to do anything really to get any of them. Zion is naturally popping as a core play. He fell just a little bit, but as long as I'm around 60%, I want to be double the field in this spot. He smashed in this spot last week too, and I still think he's too cheap for his upside in this soft matchup. Bay, he had a long stretch of where he was kind of trash, but he's getting back to where we seen him before. He's had like 3 back-to-back games around 50 fantasy points and only 6K flat. So threw a like on him. I want to be well over the field, and I am at 38%. So kind of another leverage play.
Yeah.
Herb Jones, don't really have strong feelings. I just like his price. Another solid value play tonight. Plays a ton of minutes, and somebody else who can get you kind of in the 30 to 40 point range when it's his night. So definitely want to take a shot there. And then Trey Murphy is upside is just way too good in a spot like this. Usually like him more when Zion is out, but this spot is soft enough to where he can still eat too. So definitely want exposure there and put a 15% man. Couldn't get to anybody else.
You know what? And before I talk about the Pelicans, I'm just going to go back on what I said earlier. I'm going to put a 10% min on Landale and a 10% min on GG Jackson. Those are the guys you had exposure to, right?
Yep.
Okay. Primarily because I forgot. This is the highest total game on the slate. I'm always trying to find reasons to play these guys and not reasons not to. So I have concerns, but screw them. I'm just going to throw them out the window. Brandon asked, favorite Memphis play for single entry. Do you have one?
Jaren.
Yeah, I agree. He's the main guy for me too. I have a 20% min on Sadiq Bey. Once again, I missed when he was low owned last game, but hey, we hit on it. We can keep riding the train because he's still not too pricey at 6K. And then I have a 15% min on Trey Murphy. And then Zion, he shows up by himself for me in about 56% of lineups. And kind of like what you mentioned, as long as he's above 50%, I'll allow that to be the case. But if he falls below that, I'll just put a 50% min on him. I wasn't really looking at Herb Jones, but I don't hate having another guy in the mix in that 4K range. So I'll put a 10% min on him. You did 20, so you went a little bit over. Yeah. So I'll just have some exposure.
Yeah. And then, I'd rather play these guys than the Nets guys.
I don't know. I like,
mine is Wolf. Wolf I'm going heavy on, but everybody else, I'm like,
Yeah, fair. Queen's price tag just needs to go down for the way they're using him now.
Yeah.
Next game, we have the Clippers going up against the Nuggets for LA. No real new injury news to talk about. Don't love this matchup. I'm not playing them. Are you?
No, I thought long and hard on this game. I just don't like it enough. The price tags aren't jumping out. It's hard to get here.
Yeah, they're just healthy. And would it shock me if a James Harden or Kawhi Leonard go off? No, that's definitely possible. There's just other studs I like more who are, in my opinion, just better spots. Next up, other side of this game, we have Denver, who is getting healthier. Nikola Jokic is back, but we are all expecting him to have some sort of minutes limit, so we probably won't see his typical run. Jamal Murray's playing. Joe Val's playing. Aaron Gordon is still out, but he's been out for a good minute now. Not playing these guys either, are you?
Yeah, Jokic back in the mix. He made it pretty easy to fade this team because everybody's still priced up as if he were out. So hard pass for me.
I'm so tired of playing Jamal Murray and he doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jokic, for coming back because we can eventually play him again and feel good about it. Just not today. All right. Next up, we have a game that I like a lot, but I know a lot of people won't. For Cleveland, we have the injury news we've had all week. Evan Mobley is out. Darius Garland is out. Craig Porter Jr. is questionable. Matters a little bit. Guys like Lonzo Ball might see a couple of more minutes. Wait, Lonzo's not here anymore. Is he?
I think he's out.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, he's
Well,
out.
Craig Porter Jr., if he's out or in, doesn't really change too much for me here. But the matchup against the Suns is good. They're a good defense, one that we don't like to pick on too often. It looks like you don't like this team very much, right?
Yeah, the only one I'm going back and forth on is Donovan Mitchell. I know he put up a dud last game, which is kind of the only reason why I'm thinking about going back to him. I just hate this 15% ownership. Curious if he's showing up at all. Only 1%. So, yeah, I haven't fully ruled him out. He probably be the only one I target. Jared Allen, I wouldn't talk you off of him, but his price is going up. Same with Tyson. Those would be the only other two I would consider here.
Yeah. I get it. This is a tough matchup, not for single entry, not safe. But some guys like Donovan Mitchell, I'll play as long as the spread is close or a soft matchup. So Donovan Mitchell, I like a decent amount. I have a 15% min on him, so I'm not over the field or anything like that, but just want to make sure I have exposure to him, especially because after that Pelicans game, there's like a hour and a half gap, an hour and a half gap where we're probably going to need to late swap with some different news. And so for me, the more exposure I have to these later games, it doesn't even really matter because I'll probably have to late swap and I'll just trust whatever late swap gives me at that point. But if there is no reason to late swap, I still like having Donovan Mitchell exposure with a 15% min. And then Jared Allen's going to be a leverage play for me tonight. He is someone I always just like when Evan Mobley is out, and I'll probably keep playing him until they make him 8K. And then on top of that, I like playing bigs against the Suns who can be aggressive and talented. Mark Williams is not a great defender, and we've seen bigs do well against the Suns, honestly, multiple times. It's kind of been working out pretty well for me so far. So hopefully that trend continues. I have a 20% mid on him, so low-key, honestly, even more than like my usual leverage plays. So I like this team. Still scary going up against a good defense, though. Next up, for the Phoenix side of this game, we keep talking about it. The Cavs are not a team I try to avoid too much, but they're still not as soft as like the Jazz or anything like that. For Phoenix, we have Devin Booker out still, and that's pretty much it. Do you like any of these guys?
So last game, I wish I followed exactly what I said because I said when Booker is out, Grayson Allen and Dillon Brooks are the two who step up their game and usually do well. And Dillon Brooks like absolutely nuked the slate. So I was beating myself up for not forcing those guys in. Kind of feels chasey at this point, more so with Brooks. But like you said, I'm not really scared of Cleveland's defense and their usage on this offense. Like it goes through both these guys. And again, I love guys who put up a ton of shots, and both of them do. So put a 5% min on them and kind of moved on. Everybody else is pretty gross.
Yeah, I get it. I also have a 5% min on Grayson Allen and Dillon Brooks. You can't go too crazy on guys like this because we know how inconsistent they can be. The only additional 5% min I put on was Gillespie. He's someone that's very inconsistent, but he does better in these faster paced games. And he's just someone I like having exposure to, especially when he has zero ownership. He's not someone you play in single entry. He's very unsafe. He'll probably only get 25 points and then he'll be a dud. But he does have 40, 50 point upside. And on a larger slate, I like just getting a little bit of exposure to guys like that. And hopefully ends up in some of those lines with other guys who are going off. So we'll see. Next game, one of the more interesting games on the slate. Two really bad teams going up against each other. And then, of course, the Nets have injury news to keep it interesting, too. Michael Porter Jr. is out. He, as you know from yesterday, does absolutely everything for this team. So we should see massive usage rate increases for guys like Igor Demon, Danny Wolf, Nick Claxton, and the one and only Cam Thomas. Noah Clowney's also out, which should stabilize the situation for the bigs here a little bit. What are you doing here?
So, of course, with MPJ out, everybody and their mom is playing Danny Wolf. So that's some chalk I'm just going to eat. I feel slightly better because it's against Utah. So hopefully he can show up. Uh, I put a 15% min on Sharp because he is legit good. The only concern with him is his minutes. So I hope he can find a way to kind of surpass his 20-minute mark. One of the best points per minute guys in the league. And I stand by what I always say with him is he definitely could be a starter elsewhere. So definitely want exposure to somebody with his kind of upside. And then everybody else, I just kind of let the DS dictate how much I'm getting because I just don't like this team. I know it's against Utah, but I don't feel strong enough to force them in. So Terrence Mann is at 9%, Cam at 4, and Demon at 3. So I'm okay with that.
Understandable. This team is very inconsistent. I just play guys against the Jazz, though. I don't really think about it too much. I just lock and load them. Like I feel like I've said it before. Do I know who will go off here? Not really. I have a pretty strong educated guess on who it will probably be, but I just need to kind of spread it out a little bit. I have a 30% min on Cam Thomas. He's the one I'm most worried about just because his minutes haven't been there recently. If he was playing the same minutes as he was earlier this season, he'll be a lock and load for me. But we just don't really know what the coaching staff is going to do from a rotation standpoint here. It should be Cam Thomas taking all the shots, but we'll have to wait and see there. And then I have a 20% min on Day'Ron Sharp, so a little bit higher than you, but for the same reasons. I just want big exposure against this Jazz team. The minutes floor is scary. It could burn me here, but again, with Clowney out, I feel a little bit better about the minute consistency here for this team. I have a 10% min on Nick Claxton. He's never someone I love getting exposure to. But again, really bad Jazz front court. I'm going to attack that. And then Igor Dimon, I have a 10% min on. I never really play him. But without MPJ, his minutes have been trending in the right direction. Just wanted exposure there. Danny Wolf, I have a 90% exposure cap on. In some runs, he's showing up in 99% of lineups, and others, he's showing up in about 80 to 85%. I prefer the 80 to 85% range. Danny Wolf could be great tonight. He's just not really ever anyone I believe in too much, but great matchup. And then Terrence Mann is showing up in 45% of lineups right now. Again, by the time we get to late swap, who the hell knows if that will continue to still be the case, but I'm fine with it in this matchup if there is no need to late swap. And that's pretty much it for the Nets. I'm just double checking that no one weird is showing up. Drake Powell is showing up in 2% of lineups. Fine with that. He's another guy who will be out there for 15, 20 minutes, and he's cheap. Just another random value play, but not one I'm trying to prioritize. Blake Jackson, yeah, DeAndre Ayton has had really good games against the Wizards, so not crazy. I won't talk you off him. All right, other side of this game, we have the Jazz going up against the Nets. Nets are not a team to really fear too much from a defensive perspective. Utah is going to be without Lauri Markkanen, Yusuf Nurkic. Those are big bumps for guys like George from a usage standpoint with Markkanen out. And then Filipowski should start at center with Nurkic out. And then all the other starters see an increase in usage with him out too. And then Cody Williams, he's guard and forward eligible. He's questionable, dealing with some sort of illness. If he gets ruled out, that's a slight boost to guys like Ace Bailey and Bryce Sensabaugh. Are you playing a little bit more of the Jazz?
Just a couple guys. So I threw a 35% min on Filipowski, but then I threw a like on him because one thing with him, my main concern with him is if one of Markkanen or Nurk is still in, that limits his upside. With them both out, I love him and I want him as a core play. So I have 66% right now. So well over the field there. I love his price tag too. So hopefully he can show up tonight in the spot. And then Keontae I play him every slate. Biggest concern is whether his team can keep it close or not. if they get blown out by the Nets, then they just need to give up. So I'm banking on this to being a closer game, and when Keontae's in a close game, we all know what he can do. So got to have exposure there, and then don't care enough to play any of these other guys.
Yeah, I'm with you on Filipowski. I have a 40% min on him, but he shows up in 54% of lineups, which is good enough for me. I like him in that 54% range, but the higher, I wouldn't limit it at all. Good spot. Keontae George, that's my guy. Again, seeing higher ownership on him gives me a little bit of hesitation, so I can't make him a core play. But I'll put a 20% min there. And then Bryce Sensabaugh is someone I put a 10% min on. Honestly, it was either him or Ace Bailey. I was going to take a shot on one of them. I don't really like Ace Bailey, as a lot of y'all know. And so I went the Bryce Sensabaugh direction, put a 10% min on him in that $5,700 price tag range. I think there's a little bit of upside there. And then, of course, he becomes a better play if Cody Williams actually gets ruled out alongside Ace Bailey. If Cody Williams gets ruled out, I'll probably force a small little like 5% exposure to him in this matchup that I don't think is overly tough. Kyle Anderson, slow-mo, is getting ownership. John's asking about him. He's on my shit list, but obviously that shit list has been doing great this week, so that means jack shit. Do you like Kyle Anderson here?
I do not. If he shows up any, I'm cool with it, but I'm not going to go out of my way to force him in.
Yeah. His minutes floor is just not great. He doesn't play a ton. He's not an awful points per minute guy, though, and so that's why he's a viable value play on this slate where we don't have a ton of obvious value. So if you get like 5-10%, I don't think that's bad. That's just not a situation I'm trying to force exposure to. Next up, we have the last game on the slate, and y'all know my feelings on the Warriors. I hate pretty much any game they're a part of, but they're the last game on the slate, which means I'm going to have to look at this a little bit differently. For the Detroit side of this game, we have no real new injury news. Karis LeVert is doubtful, but I don't really care about that news too much. Warriors defense is pretty solid. Are you playing any of the Pistons?
Almost didn't because I'm just not a huge fan of this game. But I ended up putting a 5% man on Tobias. I almost took it off, but then I was like, if I do that, then he's definitely going to smash. Really no good reason to play him outside of him just popping on a sim model, and I'm willing to play him at 5,600. So 5% at that price, I'm really not too concerned.
Yeah. No one's going to have exposure to this game because it does suck. But imagine you're like 20 points behind first place, and then you look at the lineup, you're like, what's going on? And you see Tobias Harris, you're like, you better come through for me tonight.
That's kind of what I'm hoping for.
That's not a bad thing. For me, I am forcing exposure to my two guys. Again, I pretty much just always play these guys, but Cade Cunningham was popping on the sim for me a bit. He usually pops on the sim, though, so it didn't mean too much. But matchups for Cade, sometimes he'll just do a lot more than score, even in those tough matchups, and he still can get past a Warriors defense. They're not a shutdown defense or anything like that. So I put a 10% min on him, and that was not enough. It didn't really do anything to make that happen. And then I put a 53-point projection on him to get him to show up at that 10% mark, which worked better. And then Jalen Duren is my guy. I always like having a little bit of exposure to him once he's healthy and playing more minutes. He is risky because he's just a silly guy sometimes. He'll get into foul trouble, things of that sort. I put a 10% min on him, and he also didn't show up. Not a great thing when I put mins on guys and they don't show up, but sometimes it still works out, like yesterday. So I increased the projection to him to about 40 to make him show up a bit more for me. If he shows up for you, if you do that, because you probably have less mins than I do, if they start showing up like in 30-40% of lineups, adjust that. They should only be showing up in about 10% of lineups because they're a very risky play. There's someone you don't need to have exposure to. I just like it for the potential upside in a game that no one's going to have exposure to. Other side of this game, we have the Warriors. Tough matchup going up against Detroit. For Golden State, no new injury news. All their guys have been out for a while, but brutal matchup here. But Curry's getting some decent ownership. What do you think?
Yeah, I am about tired of taking shots on Curry. They have been in quite a few blowouts too. So trying to give him a little grace. And I like playing him more when he's at home. It is a
True.
tougher matchup, but it should be a close game. And when Curry's in a close game at home, those tend to be the nights where he pops off. So willing to take a shot again on him. And then the only other one I considered was Al Horford. He's been in decent form. But then I thought about the matchup a bit more, and it's just not a good spot for him. I don't love him that much, but he was popping on the sim model quite a bit too. So wouldn't hate a 5% min there, but I didn't end up getting there.
Yeah, I usually just don't play Warriors. And 9 times out of 10, it works out for me. So I'm doing that. I don't have a min on anyone. I did think about Draymond for half a second. 5,500. It was an interesting price tag on a slate like this, but hard pass for me for this team. And that's the slate. There's some interesting spots. I do like it. We have some good low-owned leverage plays I think could really make this slate interesting, but all in all, we just kind of have to see where the cards fall, especially as we get more injury news throughout the slate. Anything you want to kind of say to wrap things up?
Nope, I think I'm good.
Yeah, just run them in. That's literally what happened with me. Like, I tried to play Golden State. I just always picked the wrong guy, and I realized I can just play other guys who have better upside. And every once in a blue moon, it will screw me over, and the Warriors will go off, and that's fine. That's just going to happen. Brandon said Mitchell Robinson a core. Is he a core play for you, Brandon?
He is not.
Yeah, I think for me, Mitchell Robinson is showing up in about 21% of lineups. I think that's pretty appropriate. All right, y'all. That's going to be it. We'll be back on Monday. So I wish you all nothing but luck. And then, I don't know if I said it, but reach out in the Discord if you have any questions. We're more than happy to help, especially if there's injury news that comes up. And then also, let's just celebrate a little bit more, too. Like, as people have things, I think people get shy to post their wins. Like, I'll get DMs of people tell me they won, but no one ever posts it.
Yeah.
But, to each their own. I do that sometimes, too. So, real. Yeah, helmets up, y'all. Peace out.